is what is driving college football, and if you find a way to impact that or take them, well, when you take them off the TV, I guess you hurt the schools that they're playing, but, take away their share of the TV revenue from the conference, or take away their share of the bowl money, or something. I think that's maybe where you kind of start to hit these schools a little bit harder, but I don't know. We don't make the rules. We just talk about people not following them. Speaking of which, lest Alabama fans think that, this sort of thing only happens on one side of the state, news also came out this week that a very high-profile recruit for Alabama by the name of Darius Page was encouraged to transfer from his Pensacola, Florida high school to Foley High School in Alabama at the direct urging of University of Alabama assistant football coach Jeremy Pruitt. I'll ask you the same question, David. Big deal or not?
I think this one would be a big deal. I think the problem with this one is that it's going to be very difficult to prove.
Right.
If you didn't have a recorded conversation, if you didn't have certain people there, it's going to be a he said, she said. And I think even though sanctions could still come down, they'll be a lot lighter just because of the fact that they might not be able to prove that anything transpired.
Well, this kind of thing happens a lot. I mean, you hear about these football players changing high schools for their senior years all the time. I mean, one prime example of that, Reuben Foster, the former Alabama commit who just switched to Auburn. I mean, he transferred to Auburn High School for this year. So, the recruits are switching schools frequently. You have to think that a lot of that is happening at the suggestion of assistant coaches. Where I might have a problem with it is if there are money type things involved, like where football programs are arranging for jobs for parents, or paying for moving costs, or I don't know, those sort of things. But
or even creating a funnel from one specific high school.
Right.
That would also be a problem. And some of the allegations are the fact that this assistant coach said, we have people set up here who can help you.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest thing. They don't want you to feed it to a particular high school. And like you said, they don't want benefit for those people at that high school. That's where we start getting into some trouble.
Yeah, so watch out, young football players. Keep your guard up. Don't transfer schools. Don't change any of your grades. Don't smoke weed. Anything that they are allowed to do, David.
You can study, you can go home, and you can play football.
All right, sounds like a plan. On the other side of this break, we're going to talk about the players that are already on Alabama's football team, let you know what they have in store this year. We also got a special surprise for you a little bit later in the show. We'll let you know a little bit more about that here in a few minutes, but we'll talk to you on the other side here of Outputting Our Coverage.
I wish you would step back from that ledge, my friend. You could cut ties with all the lies that you've been living in. And if you do not want to see me again, I would understand. I would understand. The angry boy a bit too insane, icing over a secret pain. You know you don't belong. You're the first to fight. You wait too long.
All right, we're back here on Outputting Our Coverage as promised for many weeks now. It is time to do our official 2012 Alabama Crimson Tide football preview. David, let's start with the offense. Alabama got quite a few of the key players from last year's offense coming back, starting with quarterback A.J. McCarron. What are your thoughts on old A.J.?
AJ is an interesting character. He is a little bit of a loose cannon who got bolted down a little this year. He's one of those guys who makes odd decisions in the pocket. Also, if you ever Google A.J. McCarron, he makes odd decisions in his life. He's got a giant tattoo right on his chest. But he's one of those guys who you're never really sure what you're going to get. He played great in the championship game this past year. And if he can get his head straight, he's definitely got the physical tools to be a good quarterback. You just never know about the decision making with this guy.
Yeah, I want to talk about him a little bit later, a little bit more in depth, but at least, one of the few SEC teams that has a really cemented starter in place. You have to think that that's a little bit of an advantage for them. One of the question marks for Alabama on offense might be at running back. Of course, Trent Richardson gone to the NFL. I would tend to guess that Alabama will take a little bit more of a running back by committee approach. This year they have Eddie Lacy, who, in his own right, definitely not a slouch running back. Just, it's hard to replace a Trent Richardson. They also have Jalston Fowler, a little bit bigger guy, and then two relative newcomers, D. Hart and T.J. Yeldon, who we mentioned a little bit earlier. I would watch out for T.J. Yeldon. I think he made some noise in the spring game. I think he's a guy that could get some pretty significant playing time pretty early.
T.J. Yeldon is the prototypical number 2 back for an Alabama system. And I say that because when Mark Ingram's going back that far with the running back, everybody really liked this Trent Richardson kid. When they came in, a lot of people started lobbying that he should be the starter. But he just came in and was extremely effective in the number of carries he had. Then when Trent Richardson came in and Eddie Lacy got his carry, he came in and showed out in that limited role as a number 2 back. I think this is just absolutely built for T.J. Yeldon to shine this year. If he can come in and get some production in his carries. Now, he's not going to have a lot, but if he can make a good production early with a couple of carries he's going to get, I think he'll see more playing time as the year goes on.
Yeah, I think definitely a guy to watch out for. And one thing that will help him is Alabama returns virtually all of its offensive line from last year, with the exception of left tackle, where you will see Cyrus Kouandjio, certainly a very, very talented player in his own right. Barrett Jones, who won multiple awards last year at guard, is moving to center. Or he may have been a tackle last year. I'm not sure which, but yeah, very, very, very big strength for Alabama on at the offensive line there.
I think so, and the only problem with that is a couple of these guys do have histories with injuries, and Alabama is not very deep in offensive line. That could be their only real weakness here. Extremely strong, probably got 4 NFL guys on the line, an experienced group. They work well together, but health is the only concern with this line. They don't have a lot to back them up.
Right, yeah, and that's always something to be concerned about. It's very rare for an entire offensive line to make it through the season unscathed. I mean, there are going to be injuries, and it's just a matter of how much drop-off there is there. But I think it helps. You can lose maybe one guy out of there, and if you have that much other leadership and experience there, maybe you don't feel that one loss quite so much. But you start losing 2 or 3 of those guys, then you got some big issues. So something to watch out for there. One of the things I'll be interested to see, though, is at wide receiver. A couple of those guys who you've been kind of counting on as mainstays for the past year or so. Darius Hanks, Marquise Mays, those guys are gone. What do you think about their replacements?
I think they've got an interesting mix. A lot of them, it's a green receiving crew. They're going to be extremely young at the receiving core. You've got junior Kevin Norwood, who's really the leader at this point, or the seniority. He's got good hands, but he's not really a playmaker. I'd say the one to watch for would be Kenny Bell. He is just lightning fast, and he's going to be your big play threat. And I think will work really well in the Washington offense. Of course, the coordinator came over from Washington. They like to spread the field a little bit. I think he's one who could really be a playmaker for this offense and could be a guy to watch later down the year.
Do you really think Alabama's offensive style is going to change that much, or are they going to spread things out a little bit more, or should we still expect to see mostly pro style type of attack?
I think you'll see a pro style, but I think that the offensive coordinator is going to open it up. You'll see more shots taken downfield. Now, I'm not saying that they'll be chucking around the ball and they'll be a Texas A&M, or there'll be a 5-wide set all the time, but I do think that off the play action, rather than looking at the check down and maybe looking at a 10 and 15-yard big play, they might be looking for the home run more often, maybe the 30, 40-yard play. I just think that they have the chance. They've got the athlete and they've got the coordinator in to be a little bit of a more explosive offense.
Definitely something to watch out for this year. let's jump over to the other side to defense. Alabama got a lot of guys to replace on defense this year.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, when you lose that many players to the NFL, you're going to have some work to do. Although they've had a couple of good recruiting classes on the defensive side of the ball, so they have athletes, but man, it's tough to lose that many great players and just come back as strong as you were.
Right, but they do still have some very talented guys. One guy that in particular is essential for Alabama's style of defense is the nose guard Jesse Williams. Another one of those big nose tackles that you have to make your 3-4 defense work. Definitely a guy to watch out for there. As far as linebackers go, you have Nico Johnson, C.J. Mosley, Xavier Dixon, and Adrian Hubbard. Nico Johnson, I think he's a slam dunk as far as getting production out of him. The other three guys, maybe a little bit more unproven.
They are, but all of them are big and athletic. Adrian Hubbard, 6'6", 248, just an intimidating figure on the field. And you've also got C.J. Mosley, who's a smaller back, but just absolutely flies around the ball. And the style of defense that Alabama plays is all about the athletic linebackers who can make plays and who can wrap up. And I think they'll do okay. Once again, another place where depth might be a problem. I mean, they do not have a whole lot of replacements. Trey DeFries maybe would be the only other person who could come in and play the middle, but a lot of unproven guys right here in the linebacking core. It's a little odd for Alabama to have in the last 4 years. That's been probably their most proven core.
Right. But, these things kind of go in waves, I guess. You can't have everybody on the field at the same time. So, you end up with some guys with a lot of experience at the top, and then they all leave at the same time, and then, it is what it is. But definitely a lot of question marks on defense. Maybe some more question marks in the secondary. Probably almost like a rotation type thing that you'll be looking at there with guys like John Fulton, D. Milliner, Dion Bellew, Vinny Sunseri, and Robert Lester. And another guy that they hoped would be in there was Travell Dixon, JUCO transfer, but I believe he just left the team last week. So one less guy there. But they have some good options, but they probably will still feel the effect of the loss of a guy like Mark Barron and some of those other playmakers that they've had for the past couple of years.
Most definitely. Robert Lester probably is the only guy with real, true experience. Made some really big plays in the last couple of years he's been at Alabama. One of the guys I think really needs to step up, needs to be a big playmaker for them is Vinny Sunseri. He's got the potential to be another honey badger, just making plays. With the defense and the style that Alabama plays, he's going to be able to take some chances. He seems to really have a nose for football, considering he came in as a freshman and just except a lot of people on the special teams that he can work his way into defensive possession. I think he's a guy to watch for. He'll be pretty interesting.
So overall theme of the defense, some playmakers, but lots of unproven guys. I think at this point you kind of have to give the defense the benefit of the doubt just because they always seem to be pretty strong, but it's definitely not the slam dunk kind of defense that they've had for the past couple of years.
Exactly, but I think as long as you have Kirby Smart calling the plays, I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, so I think anyone who's listening to this thinking, oh man, Alabama's defense might be a little bit easier to go up against this year, I would give you a Lee Corso not so fast, my friend. Don't get your hopes up because it'd probably still be pretty tough.
How has it taken this long for a Lee Corso play?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I'm holding a pencil right now, my hand smacking it against the table. So, just trying to channel my inner sunshine scooter. Speaking of scooters, I don't know if that was a good segue at all, but the one thing that really worries me, about Alabama's team is they have the same kickers from last year, same guys. Jeremy Shelley, whatever the other dude is, they're still there. How did they not fix that before the season started?
Now, they do have a freshman coming in who a lot of people, he had a lot of hype from YouTube videos of his high school career, but then he came in and he's not starting. I mean, apparently, yeah, he might have had a leg in YouTube videos in a high school game where there's not a lot of pressure, but doesn't seem like he's come around and done anything. I don't
Yeah.
know. I